brakes are on. It's all to race for. Coming to turn 4. Oh, he's hit him. He's done it.
What?
Oh, he's taken 2.
Hello and welcome to the Gfinity Arena, the home of F1 esports. It is that time again where we let the F1 stars do battle on the virtual circuit as they take on celebs and sports stars hoping to get a place on that podium. And I'm glad to say, joining me down on the desk at a very good distance, I hope you can hear me, is of course Sky F1 host Natalie Pinkman. We have got our social distance locked down.
Stay well away, Deacon, all right.
All right, fair enough. But looking into this race, it's great to have you back again. So much fun in the last one in the Shanghai circuit. Now we're heading, it should be the Zandvoort circuit, but it's not on the F1 2019 game, so instead we're going to Interlagos, but that's a brilliant track to get into.
Oh, I mean, it's an absolutely epic track. We're going to see so much drama. If it's anything like the real racing, this is one of my favourite places to go in Brazil. You've got hugely passionate fans, you've got a short circuit that lends itself to overtaking. You've got a fantastic full throttle moment of at least 17 seconds where you will see great overtakes. You've got back markers that are always a bit of a problem, but you know, we've seen some iconic moments there. You know, you've got to think 2008 with Hamilton and Glock. Think about Hulkenberg getting his only pole position there. There's changeable weather, so anything can happen.
And indeed, Pierre Gasly.
Hopefully it will.
Yeah, last year as well, Pierre Gasly getting that first podium, and
I mean,
Sainz as well.
that was epic. Max Verstappen always performs incredibly well at Interlagos. To see him put it on pole and convert that to a win last year was fantastic. And as you say, Pierre Gasly, redemption. He'd had such a difficult season, being relegated from Red Bull down to the junior team, and then to finish his season on such a high with his first podium, and Carlos Sainz there as well. That's what racing's all about.
Indeed. Well, listen, we're disappointed we're not going to the Zandvoort circuit, but not only in real life and in the virtual world. However, there is one person who's going to be very disappointed, and that is, of course, Max Verstappen, looking forward to driving in his nation's home circuit. But he took, actually, his teammate, Alex Albon, to the Netherlands in January for Red Bull's, what they called it, From Port to Zandvoort. This is what happened. Wowzers, look at that motocross bike there. This is epic, absolutely epic.
This is typical Red Bull style, isn't it? A bit of flair to show up Max's home nation in the glory that it deserves. I mean, I tell you what, I'm gutted that we're not going to Zandvoort. It's an iconic track. It's had a lot of changes made to it. There was some criticism of overtaking opportunities there. They've rectified those. But also, you know, whenever we travel in Europe, the sea of orange that envelops us at whichever race we go to, particularly Spa and Austria, are just incredible because obviously Max is half Belgian as well. But to go to your home race, I mean, it's the one that every racer wants to win. It's the one they all want to, they dream about as a boy. And he was within touching distance of doing that. The most exciting driver, arguably, on the F1 grid at the moment. But you know what? Never fear, it will come back next year. The Dutch fans are passionate, they're knowledgeable, and they'll be ready for us. 100,000 they were expecting each day at that circuit, but we'll get it back in 2021.
We will indeed. Fortunately, though, Codemasters have given us a glimpse of the finished track from the upcoming F1 2020 game, which is coming out in July. And when we look at this track, what sort of stands out for you, Natalie?
Well, it's interesting because I've never been there, but Ant Davidson went there to do a track inspection. He told me a lot about it. It's a great track because it's undulating, it's technical. Drivers have to focus on braking and throttle application rather than out-and-out gutsy racing. As I mentioned before, overtaking was an issue. They've made changes to a lot of the track, most notably the banking. Turn 3 and 4, the final corner as well, and of course, the DRS can be opened more easily on the banking, and it means that you get extra grip on that. They've also created, hopefully we'll see in a minute, new gravel traps and asphalt runoff areas, which instead of that kind of usual sea of tarmac that we see at so many F1 races.
Gotcha.
Now, it needed a lot of love. You know, it was quite run down. And needed a bit of a facelift, if you like. It needed the sort of F1 touch. We haven't raced there for 35 years.
Blimey.
So to have it back on the calendar was a real coup for the Dutch, and they needed it as a nation because they've got this incredibly exciting racer in Max Verstappen, and he deserves his own Grand Prix, let's face it. And it's great that it will come back, obviously, you know, not this year, but, you know, we don't have to wait too much longer.
Well, it looks epic from Codemasters making that game. It's coming out on in July. There will be all of the 22 tracks able to be raced on. So that'll be your next go-to as soon as that comes out. However, we are heading to Interlagos, a brilliant track. And when we head there, it's got everything in this. And actually, let's watch this, and this will remind us how good Interlagos is.
Absolutely brilliant. Many people who want to crash. What a idiot. Pure driving skill. We win the championship by 1 point.
That's it, lads. That's the double, mate.
Well, there you have it. Interlagos is where we're heading to, voted for by you guys. Listen, I've been to Sao Paulo. I went there for the World Cup. I was there for 5 weeks. It's got that energy, that vibrancy the Brazilians bring. Is that what it's like at the track as well?
Oh, and some. The carnival atmosphere is epic. It's the beating heart of a community that loves its racing. There's no doubt that those in Sao Paulo and all over the world are struggling at the moment. To have that heartbeat of race lovers right there, obviously still celebrating Senna. You feel Senna's soul when you walk into the track. It's absolutely brilliant place to go racing. I remember that moment, just reminded back then when Massa walked back down the pit lane when he was retiring and crying, and then of course he came back anyway. But we've seen some iconic moments there, the Glock-Hamilton moment, the Hulkenberg moment, and I always feel that it generates such exciting racing, not only because of the weather and the short circuit, but also where it comes in the season. It's right at the end, so the championship sometimes has already been won. So you get a lot of these young racers just going all out, saying, look, I've got nothing to lose, everything to gain by putting in a great performance today, and they often do.
They do indeed. Pierre Gasly last year, a fantastic race from him. Unfortunately, he's unable to take part in any of the F1 Virtual Grand Prix because he's in Dubai and he hasn't got his sim rig there. So that's just a little bit of information for you. But let's look at the format for this race today, Natalie. And you're looking at this 18-minute qualification. Then you've got a 50% race. There is no damage on, so that hopefully will help the drivers stay on the track a little bit longer and complete the race. Driver assists are on. But here's the exciting bit. There's no more of that creative driving lines because strict track limits are on. That's something we talked about in Shanghai.
Are you referring to Johnny Herbert by any chance?
I'm referring to a lot of the drivers really pushing the envelope on it. But yes, strict track limits are going to be there. As you can see, all of that up for grabs in our race. Those are the rules. But as we've noticed from some of the other races we've watched this evening, they don't really listen to that. There's a lot of penalties going back and forth. So even when we got the first couple of drivers across the lines, those penalties will come into effect.
I know, and didn't they moan about it?
It's George Russell as well.
It was George, you know, but I just find it fascinating, the lack of jeopardy and what that does to the mindset and the moves that you perhaps wouldn't make on a real circuit, and what it does for this kind of virtual racing. I don't know, it's just fascinating psychology.
Indeed it is. I feel like one of the drivers, Lando Norris, knows all about that at the moment, but we won't get into that. But it is. These are guys driving, competing at the top, and they are competitive. So we might be thinking, hey, this is a lot of entertainment and we're enjoying it, and look, we get our race fixed. However, these guys aren't mucking about. Stuart Broad is one of the competitors tonight, taking on Ben Stokes. He wants to win against Ben Stokes.
Oh, he does, and I find it fascinating that this is a man who's performed at the highest level, international sport, under an immense amount of pressure, and he said that he's nervous about tonight. You know, these are guys, true competitors that want to give it their all. And what I find also so interesting, there's a lot of pride and bragging rights at stake, and people saying after Lando's incident yesterday, oh, it's just a game. It's not just a game, it's about sportsmanship. It's the closest thing we've got to sport at the moment, and they do give it their all. And the skill set required in order to deliver their all is immense. So we'll see that tonight. It'll be quite interesting to see a broader field of talent as well.
Indeed. Before we just quickly look at the lineup, I wanted to ask your viewpoint on this, because the drivers were getting more of their character, more of their personality out at the moment. For example, Charles Leclerc, he's hoping to make it 3 virtual Grand Prix in a row tonight. I love the guy. I mean, the enthusiasm, him and George Russell, Alex Albon, they're offering a lot of entertainment, and hopefully we'll see him win 3 out of 3 because people are falling in love with him as well as his driving. Yeah,
and his brother did incredibly well in the F2 virtual race. He's just won that, so the talent seriously runs in that family. Look, you know, you would anticipate and expect these racers to be able to use their skill and talent in a virtual Grand Prix, but it's not a given. This is a skill set that's honed over hours and hours and hours of home virtual racing. They've also got to forget about their cues that they rely on, particularly G-force. They don't get that. So much of what a racer does is feel, and you don't get that when you're playing a computer game. So you can't just expect them to be able to jump across, which is what makes Charles Leclerc's achievements in virtual racing so very impressive.
Well, let's have a look at the driver lineup then for Alfa Romeo. Antonio Giovinazzi, Juan Manuel Correa is well joining him, and I like this one, Alessio Romagnoli, the AC Milan Italia international and defender, line up with Stuart Broad. So that is quite the lineup there. Stuart Broad, very competitive. We mentioned earlier, you saw a tweet of his. He's very nervous about this race.
He loves his F1, by the way. We've seen him at quite a few of the races. He's a big fan of the sport, but at 6'6", he can't expect to get into a real car. So this is the closest he's going to get. But, you know, I think he'll be pretty impressive.
And not to make any Beyonce jokes for Jelly down in the bottom right, I think he is ready for this. A streamer and a content creator. He will be stepping up. So that's the first lot of drivers there. Moving on to the second lot on the grid today. And I'm excited about that. Peter Solberg, 2003 rally champion. He's stepping up. And will that transfer his rally ability into this F1?
Well, he'll be gutsy, that's for sure. And you're going to need to be... Look at that crowd. I mean, what a lineup. You know, to be taking Ben Stokes on at another sport is brilliant. I mean, what a competitor that man is. And again, a great fan of F1. I love finding out about other sportsmen and women that love our sport too. You know, there's a mutual respect and appreciation between these guys, isn't there? And we saw it, didn't we? Ian Poulter last time out. He's thinking, I thought I was doing quite well. And then starts dropping back through the field.
I know.
The pressure's on in a very different way. They're out of their comfort zones.
But they are so competitive. Listen, some of the drivers tonight have sent us a little message ahead of the race.
Hello guys, so another virtual Grand Prix in Sao Paulo. I really like this track. Last year I achieved my best result in Formula 1, so I hope we can have also here another great result. And of course, not a connection problem, so we'll see. Follow us, and I hope you can have fun.
So now playing the Formula 1 game before the big event is coming up with mine and Oliver's new rig. It's a SimCube steering wheel. It's of course the Alcon brakes system, hydraulic, and well, I'm sitting comfortable here, and let's see, a good PC system from Complete. So we just have to get used to this, because this is more set up for rallying, and now this is Formula 1. So I have some job to do.
Hi, it's Stuart Broad here, and I'm taking part in the virtual GP this weekend at Interlagos, Brazil, racing for Scuderia AlphaTauri. I vowed to do the team proud, and when I say proud, that doesn't mean bring points home. It means beat Ben Stokes, my England cricket teammate. There's a good rivalry there on this track. We've been training hard this week. We got 100 laps in yesterday. We've been learning off each other about different strategies and stuff, but when the race arrives, battle is on, Stokesy. Come on!
I love that, Stuart Broad.
So
Even the
excited.
finger point came out.
I love it. You're so right about it bringing out their personalities. It's nice to see them in the comfort of their own home, relaxing a bit. You know, it's strange times for everyone. So this is a way of bringing us closer together, even if we can't be physically.
Indeed. Well, listen, we're down on the desk here, myself and Natalie. But up there in the commentating area at the Gfinity Arena, we've got Alex Jakes and Matt Gallagher. Gentlemen, we're back at it again. Will it be Charles Leclerc winning 3 Grand Prix in virtually in a row? What are you looking forward to?
Well, can anyone catch him? That's the big question. He's not getting irritating, but I think if he keeps winning, they're going to be really fed up with him. So that's the big question. Can anyone catch Charles Leclerc? And who's going to come out on top in that battle of the cricketers?
Well, listen, gentlemen, myself and Natalie we'll pass it over to you, the baton, as you can get into qualifying.
Excellent stuff. Thank you very much indeed. Matt, we're looking forward to this one a lot.
Yes, Interlagos, what a track. I absolutely love watching the race in action round here, and we are well into the 18-minute qualifying, and look who it is on pole position. Very close, though, very close. 3 1:08.0s. Charles Leclerc, Stoffel Vandoorne and George Russell, but right now, the man who's won 2 of the virtual GPs looking to make it 3 at the front of this field.
Yeah, Charles Leclerc with the advantage then, with 7 minutes to go in qualifying. Stoffel Vandoorne, the former McLaren driver, now the reserve at Mercedes, competing in Formula E as well. And he's competed in all the virtual Grand Prix so far, with a 2nd place in Bahrain, with a 6th place at Albert Park, and with a 5th place last time out. He did actually beat Guan Yu Zhou to the line, but then had a penalty from earlier in the race. And I think we're going to see more penalties today, because track limits, as you heard earlier on from Tom, strictly being applied. So we'll see. We've got a yellow flag in the middle part of the racetrack. And the eagle-eyed amongst you will have noticed that we've got a Schumacher in the lineup. That's David Schumacher, the Formula 3 racer, the son of Ralf Schumacher, a 6-time F1 winner. Last race win back in France in 2003, and he joined for one F3 race at the back end of last year, and now taking part in a virtual Grand Prix. Juan Manuel Correa then in 18th, the YouTube influencer Jelly in 17th, Stuart Broad in the block caps there, behind, devastatingly for him at the moment, behind Ben Stokes. How good is it to have Peter Solberg with us? He's in 14th, and then Romanoli in 13th, and Jimmy Broadbent back once again, and then we've got the Fittipaldis, 2 of them. And at the moment, it's Enzo in the Ferrari ahead of Pietro in the Haas, as David Schumacher goes ahead of his teammate and moves it up to 12th position. 6 minutes to go. You're looking at the pole sitter at the moment. Not by much, though. Not by much at all. Charles Leclerc is just about ahead of Stoffel Vandoorne. You can see the times there. Nothing really separating them around what is quite a short lap time anyway. And George Russell hoping to improve as well. Lundgaard goes over the line and goes faster than anyone so far. Remember, he got a penalty last time after setting the fastest qualifying time at Albert Park. Looking to put that right today. And Lundgaard throws down the gauntlet, the first driver, Matt, into the 1 minute 7s.
Yeah, Lundgaard, fantastic performance so far, 1:07.9, very impressive. I was looking out for him after his race in Australia, which ended in tears, you have to say, but he's right at the front of this field. He got a penalty, I think, last time, which allowed Charles Leclerc to have pole position, so he'll be looking in these next 5 minutes and 10 seconds to not be making any contact with any other drivers or slowing down too much. Otherwise, you will get slapped with a 3-5 grid place penalty. We speak a lot about adapting driving styles and these real-life Formula 1 drivers coming in and, you know, playing on the Codemasters F1 game. But Peter Solberg, what a mission he's had on his hands to adjust his driving style. Yeah. Probably the most extreme of anybody in this field, and he's doing a pretty good job with a 1:09.2, only 1.3 seconds off of the front, which is now Stoffel Vandoorne with a 1:07.8. The times are tumbling. We have 4 minutes 38 to go. The track evolution is kicking in as well. We should see some faster times.
Third there. Vandoorne, Lundgaard, Albon and Russell has got ahead of the driver that we're now on board with. That is Charles Leclerc coming back to the pits with 4 minutes, and now with work to do as he is down to 5th. Vandoorne, Lundgaard, then Albon, Russell, Leclerc and Enzo Fittipaldi. Not too far away at all. Very impressive stuff as he makes his debut in the virtual Grand Prix. He is another Ferrari Driver Academy star of the future, at least they hope. And he's the grandson of the 2-time Brazilian great Emerson Fittipaldi. And currently, not only that, ahead of his brother as well. So going very nicely if you're Enzo Fittipaldi at the moment. Antonio Giovinazzi, we heard from him earlier on, in 7th. And Louis Delatraz, who's already been racing earlier on today in the F2 virtual races. He was around Bahrain earlier. Now he moves to Brazil. Nicolas Latifi, always solid in the top 10, just ahead of Mercedes development driver Esteban Gutierrez.
Characteristics of this track make qualifying very, very close. A very short track. As you can see, 1 minute 7 seconds, which means any mistake is going to cost you quite a few positions on the grid. Only four or so tenths separating the top 8. And we saw earlier on the F1 esports guys, we had maybe 2 or 3 tenths covering 14 drivers. So A very exciting last 3 minutes of this qualifying session. Stoffel van Dorn, very impressed with him, 107.8. I'd like to see them get towards the mid 107s towards the end of the session with the track evolution kicking in. There's more grip as these guys go round and round the track and laying down the rubber. And we're on board with Jimmy Broadbent right now, who has impressed me bucket loads, as he's not an F1 gamer, he's a sim racer, which people might not really understand. If you're a sim racer, why can't you race on the F1 game? But it's completely different, a completely different set of skills in terms of understanding the physics of the game, and he's doing a fantastic job. And to be fair, if he's starting P13, if we're looking at his previous experiences in this virtual GP, he'll probably be first by the end of lap 1.
Yeah, he's been absolutely phenomenal at making up positions, no more so than when he was at the back in Bahrain, and he managed to come all the way through to 4th position. Right now, he's about to plunge down the hill to Yunkao corner coming up. That's his next challenge right about now. So he throws it in, looking all nicely collected. He goes up through the gears now. And Broadbent trying to break into the top 10 at the very least, but instead heading back to the pits, so didn't fancy that one. So we will instead focus on his teammate behind. Will he do the same thing? He's got DRS open, so he won't do the same thing, and he's about to start a flying lap. He's not the only one right now. This order could very easily change in the next 2 minutes.
Such a flowing track, this Interlagos circuit. David Schumacher, great to have him on board. 108.751 currently. Flying down the straight. It's quite an easy circuit, you have to say, in terms of setting a relatively good lap time. There isn't too many areas of hard traction zones. It's just nice and flowing as we come through this double right-hander with David Schumacher, son of Ralph, as Alex mentioned earlier. He's just ahead of his teammate Jimmy Broadbent. Can we see if he can improve?
Let's hear from another co-commentator. It's a good opportunity to bring in a man who absolutely loves Brazil. I think we can speak now to Pierre Gasly. Pierre, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here. How are you guys?
Yeah, very well, very well. So what do the drivers need to extract from the cars in this final minute of qualifying, Pierre?
Well, I think they still get one last shot, and yeah, looking at the lap times, it's pretty close. So yeah, just trying to put the lap together, but it's pretty impressive to see the gaps in between everybody.
And you absolutely love this piece of tarmac, don't you? After what happened last year.
Yeah, exactly. No, it's of course bring back a lot of good memories from last year, and yeah, I hope we'll be back again this season.
So who's impressed you so far? Who's caught the eye in this qualifying session so far?
Well, Stoffel on pole, it's pretty good to see him up there. And then I think after it's more or less the people we expect. Lundgaard was pretty fast, was already fast last time. Alex as well, George, Charles. Charles seems pretty hot at the moment, like winning a lot of races. So yeah, I think we'll see him up there again.
And when are we going to see you, Pierre? When are you joining this fun?
I hope pretty soon, because I really love gaming. I have a simulator back at home, and at the moment I decided to stay in Dubai after Australia, so I'm stuck here without any simulator. So that's why I'm not competing. But yeah, as soon as I get back to Europe, I hope to join the guys and have some fun with them. Yeah.
Well, I hear that you've actually been out on the track, though, in Dubai with a go-kart.
Yeah, so yeah, luckily the track reopened 2 days ago, so I managed to. They contacted me and asked me if I wanted to join for a couple of laps on a go-kart. So this was probably the best day of my best day of the lockdown since it started, and yeah, it was a pretty cool experience.
Okay, so the qualifying session's finished, Pierre, and we've got Van Dorn ahead of Russell, then Enzo Fittipaldi, Lundgaard and Albon. Charles Leclerc, who's won the last two, down in 6th position. Who is your money on for the race in a few moments' time?
I will go with Stoffel. He seems to be on a pretty good day, and also I think he had a pretty good race, and it was pretty fast in the last couple of races he did. So I think it would be nice to see him up there, and he starts on pole. So I think Charles will come back. So I will put my money on Stoffel and Charles.
Excellent stuff. So Stoffel van Dorn is Pierre's tip for the race. He's on pole position. And Pierre, we hope that you're joining us on the grid very soon indeed. Thanks for speaking to us.
Hopefully soon. Thanks. Bye-bye.
So good to hear from Pierre Gasly. And, well, we were saying who can catch up with Charles Leclerc. Matt Gallagher quite a lot of them can. We've got Stoffel Vandoorne on pole.
Well, I was mentioning how close it would be in qualifying in terms of it's a short track, and 1,000th of a second separated Vandoorne and George Russell. So fantastic qualifying session.
Well, that was absolutely epic between a former GP2 champion and a former Formula 2 champion. Absolutely excellent stuff. But it's Stoffel Vandoorne who is on pole position for the virtual Grand Prix. We'll see if he can convert that into a win in a few moments' time.
So there you go. Listen, great work from Alex and Matt. I found that fascinating hearing from Pierre Gasly talking about, obviously we know Interlagos is one of his favourite tracks now, but just in terms of how fast they are, and he would love to be competing with these guys.
Oh, of course he would, yeah. I think he had to make the call as to whether to come back to Europe or not. He told me that one of the problems was that he didn't want to potentially bring coronavirus back into his family home. So he stayed in Dubai and went into lockdown there with just his trainer. So they've been training like crazy. He's fit as a fiddle, but hasn't got a simulator, that crucial thing needed for racing, but also to kind of hone his skills. But I saw the footage of him out in the kart last night.
Yeah.
I tell you what, it gave me goosebumps. It's crazy how you adjust to a new norm, isn't it? And just to see someone going around a track, it made me quite emotional.
Yeah,
and I'm sure made a lot of the other racers jealous.
We're getting closer. We're getting closer. That's what we're hoping.
Yeah.
And these races virtually give us that opportunity to see the guys that we love on the track race. However, Charles Leclerc, hoping, and I'm sure he is, and some fans of him are out there as well, hoping to make it 3 virtual Grand Prix in a row.
Ooh,
however, Stoffel Vandoorne, he's been there or thereabouts, top 10 in pretty much all of the virtual Grand Prix, but yet is fastest there and is on pole position.
Listen, Stoffel Vandoorne is no slouch. He's quite an underrated racer. There was one point where we thought this guy was going to be the next big thing, and then it didn't quite deliver for McLaren, and he sort of fell away from Formula One, didn't retain his seat. But, you know, he's got a serious amount of skill, and it's great to see him there in his name back up in lights.
Yeah, Alex Albon as well. Also, I was frantically trying to scribble down. We've got our screens on the desk here. Scribble down who was up in pole position. We know Stoffel Vandoorne. Alex Albon is there. Out of this at the moment, Charles Leclerc's got a bit of work to do.
He does, from P6, but, you know, if anyone can, it's him.
So listen, for those of you just joining us, Stoffel Vandoorne is on pole position, and it's been confirmed that is where he's going to be starting this race. You've got the likes of Alex Albon behind him, George Russell, competitors that we know are very fast in the sim world. He's going to have his work cut out to try and hold them off.
Of course he will, and Interlagos is a track that lends itself to overtaking. There's certain sectors of the track that will cause a few problems for those who aren't experienced. I noticed that Ben Stokes out-qualified his pal Stuart Broad, who was at the bottom of the order. But look, you've got to realise the level of talent required to take part in these virtual Grand Prix, and the cricketers are seeing that firsthand.
Indeed. Listen, let's get back to the action with Matt and Alex. This is going to be a tough race for Stoffel Vandoorne to hold on to pole position.
Yeah, George Russell is a man on a mission because he feels he was unfairly given a penalty last time out, and that is going to be doing absolutely everything. It was George. Win away from Vandoorne.
Yeah, absolutely. What a fantastic qualifying session that we had. I'm really looking forward to the race. Can Charles Leclerc come back from P6 on the grid? It's going to be very interesting to see. Obviously, Stoffel Vandoorne came out of nowhere, really. Wasn't really thinking whether he would be able to get pole position, but he just 107.8. Fantastic result for him. George Russell, again, he was showing enough pace through Australia, through China, but never really got towards the front. Can he get to the front tonight? Who knows?
Be very interesting to see whether he can convert that into victory. We got a real contest on our hands, haven't we? We have a real contest as we're moving there in a few moments' time. And here come the lights then. Stoffel Vandoorne in the Mercedes, George Russell on the right in the Williams. Lando Norris has got a penalty for a jump start. The lights go out and away we go in Brazil with a spin immediately for Vandoorne, who's trying to hold it together but he can't, and he's heading backwards. It's Alex Albon who goes into the lead. A disaster for the pole sitter. There's a car in the middle of the racetrack and the centre is as well, but Alex Albon, who had some misfortune in the real thing in 2019, gets a huge amount of fortune this time to lead ahead of Charles Leclerc. Antonio Giovinazzi is up to 3rd position. Russell, well, he was lucky to maintain 4th there, but what a disaster for Stoffel Vandoorne. Sideways at the start and down to 11th.
I can't believe it. I don't know what's happened to Stoffel there. Just completely lost traction and broke away from him. Then he was sideways going down towards turn 1, which is never ideal when you have 19 other cars hurtling towards you. We're having a look at George Russell at the moment, right behind Giovinazzi. What a start from Antonio Giovinazzi up to P3, as he's got a little bit of a train of the 2 Williams and a Mercedes behind him at the moment. Charles Leclerc up to P2 already from P6 on the grid, already trying to chase down Alex Albon. Are we going to have another China where we have Albon versus Leclerc? It looks that way at the moment.
That was a super battle between those two in China, just realised in Leclerc's favour. At the very end when he was able to dive to the inside, something that George Russell's trying to do on Antonio Giovinazzi, and I think he's going to get there. Oh, he's going to try and go all the way around the outside, wheel to wheel between these two. Who comes out in front is George Russell, showing on the graphic in the background. Oh, there's nothing between them at all. They're getting closer, going 3 wide. Giovinazzi has Russell into the wall, and it's Latifi who benefits to go up to 3rd.
Oh, this is so close. Look at them all going up the inside. 2 Williams, Alfa Romeo, Mercedes, and a Haas as well. George Russell up to P4, well, staying in P4, actually. Giovinazzi somehow maintaining P3, but the battle continues into the middle sector.
They've been side by side for basically the entirety of this lap. Antonio Giovinazzi maintaining 3rd, but he will be sweating right now. Russell thought he had the move, but he was in the wrong part of the racetrack. Oh, touch between teammates. Not the first time we've seen that between the Williams pair since we went under lockdown. And Gutierrez, the Mexican driver, trying to profit from all of this side-by-side action all the way through. It's Albon from Leclerc, then Giovinazzi trying to sprint clear of Russell in the Williams, then Gutierrez, Delatraz and Nicholas Latifi, 1 point in 3rd. Now he's down to 7th place.
DRS is going to be enabled at the end of this lap with Charles Leclerc.
This is for the lead between Alex Albon, who we're on board with, and Leclerc trying to do what Russell couldn't and go around the outside, and he knows better than that. These two are good friends, but they won't be thinking about that right now. They'll be thinking about P1. Who's going to come out on top? Leclerc hit a car here back in 2019. He's going to try and avoid it now as they go to turn 4, and into the lead goes Charles Leclerc. He gets past Alexander Albon, and he didn't have the best qualifying session, but he's made up for it to take the lead in just 3 laps.
It's not over yet though. Alex Albon, if he can just stay with Charles through this middle sector, will then have the DRS down the back straight. Leclerc has the lead at the moment, but Albon just following through, very much single file. We will be looking at the strategies at the in terms of the tyres, because we've got 36 laps, so we'll dive into the strategy element of this race, because these guys will have to pit once. I imagine, from my own brain, it will be around lap 14 to 16 they'll be pitting to go on to the medium tyres. I think the soft mediums are the best. And here we go.
Here's the graphic.
Stop strategy. Lap 13. Oh, I did all right.
You did all right. It's almost like we had a meeting about that beforehand.
Yeah,
well remembered, sir. Very impressed indeed. And if you go the other way, then you can potentially get rid of that soft tyre slightly earlier if you choose to go to the hard. Alex Albon back into the lead. Alex Albon on lap 4 gets past Charles Leclerc, and he stayed cool, he stayed calm, and he's got back past his rival exactly as Matt predicted, that he was not out of this battle, and this is supreme stuff. Look at the gap between Albon, Leclerc, and then the 3rd place driver of Antonio Giovinazzi. These two right now in a race of their own.
Thank God for Alex Albon being part of this series, otherwise Charles Leclerc would have romped away again. But this is going to be a race-long battle unless there's some sort of incident between these two, and they are getting very close. We've seen a bit of rude racing up and down the field so far in these first 3 laps, and, well, it's going to be so close, because it's going to come down to the pit stops. If these guys constantly jostle for position, they've got enough in hand so that they can battle, because usually if maybe Giovinazzi was half a second behind, they may have worked together to try and get out of the DRS of the Alfa Romeo driver. But yeah, instead, these two are so far ahead of the rest of the field. George Russell, can he break away, get up to P3 and then chase these two down? He's got the pace to do it, but right now he's getting caught up.
So we saw Alex Albon take the lead at the start of this race after an issue for the pole sitter. He then had to regain the lead after he was overtaken by Leclerc. And Leclerc's going all the way around the outside to pull off a mega move into turn number 1. Fantastic, absolutely brilliant move to retake the lead. But I don't think this battle's over yet.
This takes some confidence for Charles Leclerc to do that round the outside of Alex Albon. He has the DRS, does Albon, but thinks better of it. This is where we just keep it calm and composed. Keep it on the black stuff. Don't get any warnings. They have strict corner cutting on this time because China was a bit of a joke with how they were going off the last corner, and no one could actually see where they were because the cameras didn't look that far round. So this time it's all very fair, very simple. Keep it on the black stuff, don't cut, otherwise you will be dished out a few penalties. There's George Russell. Look at the concentration. Does he ever blink? I don't think so.
Yeah, he is really intent on getting on with it now. He's been on the podium already in this virtual Grand Prix contest with his first race when he was third around Albert Park. He's looking to improve to that position right now. Antonio Giovinazzi, who has, as he said earlier on in this show, he achieved his F1 personal best around here last year with 5th place. He's looking for his best result of the year with 3rd, but he's got his mirrors full of Williams right now. And Alex Albon, well, right now, after having the move slapped on him 1 lap ago, he goes back through. And this is absolutely brilliant stuff between these two. So evenly matched, swapping the lead as if it's just a normal thing. A brilliant contest for the lead, and George Russell and Antonio Giovinazzi side by side further down the racetrack as well, with Gutierrez further back, very close with Latifi. Fantastic contest for the major positions here, but Leclerc's got a great run. If he can stay at that sort of distance, he's going to have a chance to go back into the lead at the end of that long stretch on the throttle. For the moment, though, it's the Red Bull at the top of the order. And George Russell now into 3rd. George Russell finally gets past Antonio Giovinazzi. And what Russell now wants is endless battling between the top two. He wants to see these two take time, and George Russell can hope, from his point of view, close up to them. Stoffel Vandoorne, who started from pole. You can never read too much from Stoffel's expression, but I don't think he would have been that calm before. And as predicted, it's another change for the lead. This time Leclerc's back in front. A battle royale at the front. It is fantastic. Giovinazzi's got past Russell as well. Brilliant. Pass, repass, lap after lap. Mega stuff in the virtual Grand Prix around Interlagos.
It's all very polite right now. I reckon when we get towards the pit stops, there might be a few more elbows being thrown about, because right now, as we mentioned, they're kind of just using it as a pulling away technique. They're not teammates, but they've got the racecraft and the knowledge to know that if they're battling on lap 7 of 36, they're just going to wreck their tyres. They're going to get tyre wear. They're going to have to pit earlier. So right now, not too many, well, apart from Charles Leclerc's around the outside into turn 1, I reckon that was pretty audacious. But apart from that, I think these guys are just working together at the moment. But it's great to see a battle for the lead. Leclerc hasn't flown away like he did in Australia. And can George Russell bridge that gap? Because he needs to be over a second to pull away from that DRS zone, because it's so, you gain so much time with the DRS around here, as you can see with Alex Albon.
Here he comes again. Another change for the lead. Albon past Leclerc, and that is P1 once again for Alex Albon, even though I'm commentating that like it's a move for P9. They're overtaking each other so much. This is brilliant stuff. And now we've got Esteban Gutierrez in very close proximity to the Alfa Romeo, who hasn't been able to stay with George Russell, hasn't been able to do what Albon and Leclerc have been doing to each other. And so now Giovinazzi looking backwards at Esteban Gutierrez, trying to improve. And a good move through the field for Stoffel Vandoorne, who has a great feel around this circuit, around the 4.3 kilometres of Interlagos, because he's managed to make steady progress through the field. The other car caught up in that, who had been ahead of Charles Leclerc, was Enzo Fittipaldi, who's trying to recover as well, just a 10th away from Christian Lundgaard, who doesn't have the pace around here that he had at Albert Park, where he was absolutely mega there. So Albon is currently in the lead, but it's DRS time once again as we go out of Yuncao and we head full throttle up through the gears across the line. And are we going to see yet another change of lead? It certainly looks that way, with the Ferrari now in the slipstream, and they've been doing this lap after lap after lap, and I think they're going to do it all the way through into the lead goes Charles Leclerc, and that wasn't quite the mega round the outside move of before. So I think Albon now understands what's going on. Now it'll be interesting to see whether he fights back at this point, or whether your theory looks more on the money, Matt. No, I think they are going to go wheel to wheel, so nothing between them.
He's pushed him down the straight.
I think, was he bump drafting him there?
Genuinely bump drafted him down the straight.
Oh,
with no damage, I guess he can get away with that. But yeah, as you say, right now they're not really sending each other well, to the absolute limits of the track.
Well, I think the move at turn 4 proves your theory that they are working together here, because you would always try to retake the lead if you were desperate for it. So I think they are using this as a tactic. Let's check in with the gap to George Russell, 5.7 seconds. So Russell unable to make inroads at the moment as these two get themselves into basically another postcode. Giovinazzi has pressure now from Latifi, and Van Dorn has got ahead of Esteban Gutierrez. So Van Dorn with some serious pace, and he will be so frustrated with what happened in the opening meters of the virtual Grand Prix. It's Albon's turn right now, and he goes back into the lead of the race.
As you mentioned, Van Dorn very, very quick, up to P6. I think he dropped to 11th at the start of the race. The man is in 11th, which we have to give a shout-out to, Lando Norris. Great to have him racing this evening. I think he actually got a penalty for jump-starting, so he's been through the pits already with a drive-through penalty, and he's already back up to 11th. I also believe I saw he got a 5-second penalty for speeding in the pit lane, so he's not had the best race so far, and yet somehow he's in 11th. We know that Lando's quick, and hopefully he'll be able to make his way through even further up the field.
And here's Christian Lundgaard, the driver in P9, the driver who's going to be taking part in Formula 2 for ART in 2020. He's been taking part in the F2 virtual races earlier on, currently finds himself just ahead of the Ferrari of Enzo Fittipaldi. Look at the stare of concentration there from the hugely highly rated driver.
Do these drivers have eyelids? Because I haven't seen George Russell nor Lundgaard actually blink whilst we've been having a look at them.
You usually get to see that intensity at Singapore, don't you, or at the other night races, but great to be able to see that. Back to the never-ending story that is the battle for this lead and the effective slipstreaming contest between these two. Now it's Charles' turn to go back into the lead of the race, and well, I've certainly never done a Grand Prix in real life with this many changes for the lead, so excellent to see these two pass and repass as they look to work their way clear, and they are. Look, 6.2 seconds now ahead of George Russell. So this tactic for the top two is working really nicely. Nicholas Latifi is broken up into 4th place. That's the move that we're joining right now. The Canadian driver up to 4th place. Giovinazzi trying to go down the inside. Oh, he sent Latifi off into the wall. So Latifi, after having his best virtual Grand Prix since the first one in Bahrain, tumbles down the order, and Antonio Giovinazzi is out of the race. He's left the session after coming together with Nicholas Latifi, who drops down to 10th, but I think there'll be more cars making their way through there. I think Correa will get him. That is so unlucky for Nicholas Latifi.
So unlucky. It was great racing, and we thought, OK, they can go side by side there, not a problem. And then there was just a tiny little wheel bang, which unsettled Latifi, and he flies into the wall. And here we go, another change for the lead. If you're worried that these guys are going to do it for the next 24 laps, well, we're coming up to the pit stops, and this is where the race can be won or lost. Will Albon or Leclerc go for an undercut or overcut?
If you were worried that there's too much overtaking for the lead in Formula 1, sentences so that weird. You never thought you'd hear.
So strange, but I guess it's more calculated overtakes, isn't it? And it's going to change very quickly. We don't know what Albon or Leclerc are planning to do in terms of pit stops, but one of them is going to try and break away for the lead, whether that's an early pit stop. So really, if you want to make a move for the lead, you want to be second, so you can dive into the pits, and the other guy will have no idea.
In the battle between the cricketers, it is Vantage Ben Stokes. That's a nailed-on commentator's curse. Sorry, Ben. Right on cue. I didn't know that was coming either. Right on cue. That's a 3-second penalty for Ben Stokes to maybe make it more of a contest with Stuart Broad. But Ben appears to be, he's ahead of Schumacher, he's ahead of an AC Milan defender, he's ahead of a YouTuber there in Jelly who's had 8 billion views for his YouTube channel.
19.5 million subscribers.
Absolutely.
My goodness.
Bad. So Nicholas Latifi further down the order there, now down to 13th position, and now in comes Charles Leclerc.
Here's the move then.
So the polite stuff is about to end, and now it's about sort of Schumacher territory, if you like, in-laps, out-laps. How hard can Albon push? He will surely respond immediately. And what sort of out-lap is it going to be like for Charles Leclerc when he comes out? He is leaving the pits right now. What sort of gap does he find himself in? Is he going to have a huge amount of traffic to deal with? That's his teammate today, Enzo Fittipaldi, coming past. He's going to exit. If he exits behind Van Dorn, that is not ideal. And I think he's just about stayed ahead of Van Dorn for the time being. So Van Dorn came into the pits. So that's a decent gap for Charles Leclerc. So They're not on the same part of the racetrack anymore, but it is a time trial between these two. Alex Albon will be desperate to end this run with of never-ending Charles Leclerc victories. All earned, all brilliantly won, of course, but he will desperately, Brazil of all places, want to make amends after what happened to him when he was spun around by Hamilton last year. And he's been hearing that an awful lot on the streams. Will he come into the pits now and respond immediately? No, he won't. Another lap for the race leader, who believes that he's got the tyre life, and that's maybe not what we expected. 6.3-second advantage for George Russell, who does come into the pits. So Russell pits from second position, along with Esteban Gutierrez, who's a few seconds behind him. And this will be really interesting. Alex Albon believes he's got life in those tyres, and now the race that has been pretty entertaining with battles for the lead is really on.
I was thinking as you were speaking, Alex, as to whether Albon would stay out and potentially try and put on the medium tyres. So he'll need to push this stint maybe 1 or 2 more laps, depending on how his tyres are doing currently. And he might try and put on the mediums as we watch Fittipaldi right behind Lundgaard there for currently P2. But Albon could definitely make this work, because in my mind, the softs to the mediums is the quickest strategy. Leclerc's gone for maybe a safer bet with the hard tyres. He'll definitely get to the end. Whereas the mediums is a bit more risky, but you just need to push this first stint a little bit further, and then you'll be quick. So Albon may be in the pound seats here.
So he's gone a different way. And also, look, Charles Leclerc only 2.2 seconds away from a pretty tasty battle between Lundgaard and Fittipaldi. So Albon appears to have gone a different direction. So after being glued to each other for most of the opening stages of this virtual Grand Prix around the Interlagos circuit, Albon now going in a totally different direction. But Leclerc, if he catches Lundgaard and Fittipaldi, that is really going to hurt him and potentially build the gap. So right now we're on board with Enzo Fittipaldi, who's doing a little bit of bump drafting as well, and he can't get past for the time being in the lead Ferrari. Leclerc 2.1 seconds, now 2 seconds behind, and George Russell, you can see that gap just about the same, 6.6 seconds. So clearly Charles is pushing right now as Fittipaldi goes to the inside and takes P2. They still have to come in and make their pit stops. Fittipaldi with so much pace right now, and he's got past one talented youngster getting past another. Fittipaldi up to P2.
Now, I wonder if Alex Albon has had some help with his teammate engineer, Marcel Kiefer, who won the race earlier today. Yeah,
pretty good person to have in your corner, isn't he?
Yeah, very good. He knows strategy like the back of his hand. So I wonder if this was a little dummy that they've sent to Leclerc and is going to go for this alternate strategy. And you'd imagine if they're an F1 esports driver, they know strategy to the absolute T. It just really depends on how Albon's tyres are and what his pace is. We can expect Charles Leclerc to take the net race lead once Albon comes into the pits. And they're going to be managing that gap as well, just making sure they don't fall behind George Russell. But it's fortunate that they have that 6-second buffer for Albon to try this new alternate strategy.
So into the pits comes Enzo Fittipaldi. And now Leclerc has the opportunity to close up to the Renault driver ahead. We can see the gap is, well, at the moment it's going to work, as you say, Matt. If Albon pitted, Leclerc would take the race lead. So he's in the position at the moment, but he will be dealing with old tyres that are a compound harder than the ones we expect the Thai driver to move on to. So this is the second Ferrari in the race. Enzo Fittipaldi coming out just in front of Ben Stokes and Lando Norris, who is 2.4 seconds away from the English cricketer. And the other one, Stuart Broad, 17th position, both true greats of the game. So great to see them competing in this. And now here comes the answer. The race leader into the pits, Alex Albon, is going to meet his virtual Red Bull crew, and he has gone for the medium tyres. So the race leader comes into the pits. He's going to lose this race lead, but will his strategy pay him back later on? Or will Leclerc, or is he going to lose the lead? Let's have a little look. Where is, that is Charles Leclerc now up into the lead. Oh, it's far closer than perhaps we were expecting, and it will be the lead for Charles Leclerc. So this time, there's no teamwork going on right now, but with a softer compounded tyre on, a fresher tyre, it seems to be advantage Albon, especially with the overtaking opportunities. But with track position and the race lead right now, the two-time winner already going for the hat-trick today has the race lead, but potentially has the wrong tyre on. Can he keep Albon behind on this lap? The race victory very much on the line.
What a stint from Alex Albon. You have to put it to him. Wow, I was not expecting him to come 2 tenths behind Charles Leclerc. Right now, Charles Leclerc has to just keep Albon behind. That's it. He has to try and keep him behind, because if Alex gets ahead, he'll be able to streak away on these completely fresh, brand new, the most grip that he's ever felt probably around Brazil. And he just needs to get through. And he's going to do it pretty easily, but can he break away?
So he goes to the inside. He's got the race lead, but that is the question, Matt. Can he break away? And George Russell has got the gap down to 4.7 seconds. Remember when it was 6.6 a few laps ago? Van Dorn on a super recovery drive right now. Sideways at the start, went down to 10th, now up to 4th. It's Alex Albon into the lead. Now, they're definitely tussling this time, because there's a battle down at turn number 4, and Charles Leclerc retakes the lead. The teamwork is over, battle is on, and the Ferrari's back ahead of the Red Bull.
There's the defending we've been waiting for. It's about to get rude, I think. We've got 18 laps to go, halfway through this race, and Charles Leclerc retakes the lead. That was crucial for him. You could just see how much more speed Alex can take into these corners, and it's just this part of the race that Charles has to stay with the Red Bull driver, so that he can just wait for those mediums to fall away a little bit. Those hards, no problem. He'll be fine for grip for the rest of the race. But right now, Alex is in the pound seats, and he has to get through on the Ferrari driver if possible.
And all the while, George Russell is willing. Few more laps of this, chaps. Few more laps, because it could bring him into play
4 seconds, yeah, closer.
Not much between the top 3, not much between the top 2. Look at this, crucial race victory on the line. Very tight to the pit wall, ludicrously tight to the pit wall from Leclerc. Go the long way round, he says to Alex Albon, and Albon can't do it for the time being. So he will wait now. His next opportunity, no, not too far away. Turn number 4 as they go down the straight. Past the grandstand, there's that DRS. Does the Ferrari appear on the left-hand side of our screen? No, it's on the right-hand side. He's trying to go around the outside. Can he keep it on the racetrack? They're side by side up the hill. This is going to be very close indeed, but the Ferrari surely got the turn in. Oh, Albon doesn't want to give it up. Magnificent stuff between the two of them. Somehow they don't make contact. Somehow Leclerc still has the lead.
I have a beaming smile on my face. Who would have ever thought this would be possible? It's amazing to see Leclerc and Albon fighting wheel to wheel throughout pretty much the first sector, and it hasn't ended in tears just yet. George Russell 3.6 seconds behind the two now. He's closing in. He hopes that this battle goes on for another 10, 15 laps. You can see him in the background. It's about to get closer, not just for the top 2, but Russell and even maybe Gutierrez and Van Dorn, depends on their pace, as the fight for the lead continues.
Now this time, where does Leclerc defend? Where does Albon go? He's got a lot more momentum than he's ever had before. Now he's got the race lead, and can the Monegasque driver fight back? I'm not sure he can, you know. It's the race lead for Alex Albon, and after mega defense from Charles Leclerc, he's not had an opportunity to come back. Can he make the move now? If Albon stays ahead here, this could be the race, but the Ferrari's inching past, and the Ferrari's going through. Brilliant stuff.
I think Albon went a little bit too deep into turn 1, which allowed Leclerc to get a great run through that left-hander and then down the straight. Retakes the lead again, and all the while George Russell just slowly, incrementally bringing himself into the fight for the lead. I wonder what tyres he's on, because we haven't seen an on board with him for a little while. But right now, brilliant stuff.
So these two worked together earlier on. If you're just joining, these two worked together to pull away from the field that was led eventually by George Russell, who had a good tussle with the Alfa Romeo of Antonio Giovinazzi, who then had contact with Nicholas Latifi and is out of the race. That took Latifi down to where he is right now in 10th position. Lando Norris up to 9th and making good progress through the field. But these two work together as a team. Now, direct rivals. This time, can Albon find a way through? Is he going to go for the late lunge to the inside? No. He's gonna think about it, so different line now. He's prioritizing turn number 4, looking for the good exit out of the center S's through turn number 3. Who's gonna get there as they go down to turn number 4, inside line? This could be crucial. This is the race lead, and now Albon has got the job done. crucial few corners coming up for Charles Leclerc. He's got to try and fight back, because that could be the move that's won Alex Albon the race.
This middle sector, Albon should be quicker than the Ferrari driver. Just going to have to be mistake-free. It's all about the extra grip that he currently has. These two cannot be separated for pace. But that softer compound for Albon is very much paying dividends at the moment. Russell, I saw in the background, is also on the medium compound tyres, so Leclerc could come under pressure if he falls away from the Red Bull driver, and it looks that way, Alex, that he's only just about getting DRS, and this is the move Albon is making, the Red Bull driver, to try and take his first ever win in this virtual GP series.
At the track that brought so much heartbreak 1 year ago, is it going to be a bit of joy? We're in strange situations, we're not in a normal time, but we've had great racing to distract us all today from Alex Albon and the driver you're on board with. Leclerc cannot fight back, and that might be the race in the pocket of Alex Albon. But remember, that's a lot of punishment he's given those medium tyres. If he's taken too much out of them early on, he could be in trouble later on, and you can bet that Leclerc is not going to give this one up at all. A two-time virtual Grand Prix winner, a two-time Grand Prix winner in real life in the space of a week with Belgium and Italy as well. Albon, who looks set to be on the podium at this very circuit after some mega moves, you have to say, into the centre S's at the back end of last year, now fighting all race long with Leclerc and coming out on top, potentially after the inspired strategy call of Marcel Kiefer, who I think might take credit for it, regardless of whether he came up with it. The medium tyres at the moment, more than a match for the Ferrari on the hards. George Russell was able to get the gap down from 6.6 seconds to 3.4, but he needed that tussle to go on a few more laps than it did. And so Alex Albon has a beautiful, clear racetrack in front of him, half a second lead, not exactly the buffer he'd want at this stage. He knows that get out of DRS zone.
He's made a mistake.
He's a little bit deep there. All right, we've got a long way to go. We're not going to predict anything.
Charles Leclerc's got a 3-second time penalty.
And that is surely the track limits that we were told about coming into effect. And if it can happen to Charles Leclerc, it can happen to almost any of them. Alex Albon with a, not just a 0.2 of a second buffer then, with a 3-second, I think it was, penalty for Charles Leclerc. And he will be looking backwards, not forwards. Or he gets past Albon, he builds up 3-second gap. Damon Hill versus Michael Schumacher style from Japan '94. If you're one of our younger viewers, have a Google. It's definitely worth your time. So, it's Albon, Leclerc, Russell, Van Dorn. What a drive from Van Dorn. Shows you how much pace he had. He's got ahead of his teammate Esteban Gutierrez. And then Louis Delatraz in 6th, ahead of Fittipaldi. Lundgaard ahead of Norris. Nicholas Latifi maintaining 10th position. Ben Stokes is still ahead of Stuart Broad.
Leclerc 6/10 behind Albon. Doesn't look like it's going to be close enough into turn 1. Albon has this measured now. He'll know, he'll know that there's a 3-second penalty for the Ferrari driver. It's now Leclerc's looking behind him. Russell only 3/10 behind technically.
Okay, we can see Ben Stokes, and not only can we see him, I think we can talk to him right now in the other Red Bull. Ben, how's it going out there?
Yeah, all good. I'm sweating.
How does this compare? How are the nerves in this race compared to, say, something like Headingley? Well, maybe not Headingley, but a normal test match.
Much worse, because I don't want to crash, because if I crash, then my night's ruined.
Stuart Broad said to us earlier, Ben, that victory would be beating you. Right now, you're directly ahead of him. You've got the wood over Stuart Broad. You must be delighted with that.
I know. I'll have to pull his pants up at the end of the race by the way we're going.
And you've got a World Rally Champion just down the road from you there. That is pretty decent stuff, Ben. What lessons were you able to take from last race to this one?
Oh, see now? Get through the first corner without crashing.
Yeah.
Let all the other guys crash into each other and then just sneak in between them when they're off the track.
So you're currently in P14, Ben, but Petter Solberg has a penalty, so you're going to get past him if you stay where you are right now on track.
Yeah, well, I hope so. I mean,
we're going to leave you with it because...
Yeah, please.
Yeah, we're going to leave you with it because we spun Ian Poulter, and I don't think I'd forgive myself if I spun round Ben Stokes with our interview questions. Good luck for the rest of the race, Ben, and we'll leave Ben as we've got a battle for the lead. I can't believe it. Charles Leclerc's going round the outside. Charles Leclerc's going back back into the lead. Albon doesn't want to give it up, and I thought this contest might have been done, but how daft to write off Charles Leclerc, who was there, who nearly had it, but Albon just about stays ahead. Magnificent tussle for the lead, and thankfully, Matt, we didn't spin round Ben Stokes. It's been a stressful minute.
That just came out of nowhere, didn't it? Leclerc's right on the back of Albon once again, and the later this race goes on, I think the better Leclerc's looking, because ideally Alex Albon wanted to pull away on these mediums at the start of his stint, but as it continues, as this race goes on, his mediums are going to be looking pretty red raw by the end of this. 11 laps to go. Leclerc will still have DRS. George Russell not making too much headway towards these two as well, which suggests again that the mediums are falling away. And Leclerc, can he possibly get through and then pull a 3-second gap? That would be gargantuan.
Well, let's not write him off, because I thought when Albon got past, that was the race done and dusted, but not so. They managed to get past. I think they were getting past Stuart Broad there as well. So back to Leclerc, who does not know when he is beaten, not giving this one up at all. Despite the difference in compound, there's a 3-second time penalty for Lando Norris. So as we tick down into the latter stages of this virtual GP, the best of the rounds that we've had so far. We've been to Bahrain, we've been to Albert Park, we've been to Shanghai International, but here at Interlagos, an absolute thriller all the way through. Couldn't tell you which way it's going to go. We saw these two cooperating earlier on. They pulled away from George Russell, who's 3.7 seconds away. Behind them in P3 on for his second podium in the virtual GP series. Leclerc looking for the hat-trick of wins. Albon looking for his first in the virtual GP championship. This is Louis Delatraz closing in on the Ferrari of Enzo Fittipaldi, and Christian Lundgaard is the third of these drivers in this battle for 6th place.
Leclerc's going to just put as much pressure as he possibly can on Alex Albon. Just hope that he just extends a couple of times, gets a few warnings. As far as I'm aware, I think it's 3 warnings, then you get a penalty. As long as it's in a certain amount of laps. Correa has got a penalty as well, so they're coming in thick and fast. The longer this race goes on, the less warnings they're allowed to get, because they've made a few mistakes already. And Leclerc still 7 tenths behind.
So this is intense stuff for Louis Delatraz. See him in vision there.
Love that backdrop.
Yeah, all the crash helmets for him and his father, who also raced in Formula 1 and sports cars as well. Lando Norris setting the fastest lap. What is that, a 1:09.9? Still a second for the lead, but unfortunately for Norris, he's not battling up the front with these. He's a lap down, and that is why the car has gone transparent. If you're new to the esports and the virtual Grand Prix, great to have you with us. You can see how hard Charles Leclerc is trying there, doing his best Petter Solberg impression coming out of Junkau and going up the hill. They are really pushing.
It's going to be very close for the lead. Hopefully we get an onboard, as it's 1/10 of a second going into turn 1.
And he's got back through. Charles Leclerc, on the tyres that aren't meant to be fastest at this stage, has stayed with Alexander Albon, and now he's passed Alexander Albon. What a fantastic stint on tyres that weren't perfect. Leclerc retakes the lead, and he's on for the hat-trick, and Albon will just puff out his cheeks and say, what do I have to do here? Mega stint on the hard tyres. It looked to be Albon's race. He just needs to stay there and hope that he's got life in those medium yellow wall tyres. He's very, very close indeed. Tell you what, Matt, this looks like it's going all the way to the end.
Game on. Leclerc somehow the faster of the two, although Albon is staying with him, so we could see another change for the lead. I'd love to see statistics of this at the end of the race, but for now, Leclerc's just hoping Albon makes a mistake. Can he pull 3 seconds? I honestly would have, I would have bet on anything other than Leclerc pulling a 3-second lead on Alex Albon on softer wool tyres as we come round the final corner and onto the straight for the 28th time. Albon very close indeed in the slipstream. This should be a pretty easy move.
Yeah, I don't even think Leclerc's going to fight it. He's just going to regroup and try and get him offline, try and get him into turn number 4. You see that wide line that he's taking into turn number 1, trying to have the widest possible angle of attack, open up the corner. He's very much there. Can he try one of those audacious moves around the outside? I think Albon's got him covered off at this stage. And so after launching a surprise attack and getting back, Albon retakes the lead, and he will breathe a sigh of relief. He's got the right tyres to win the race, but Leclerc just will not give this one up.
Van Dorn and Gutierrez having a good battle for P4. Whether they're working together, I imagine they might be as their teammates. trying to pull in George Russell in P3. What a shame. What a shame Leclerc made that mistake, getting that 3-second time penalty. We still have laps to go in order for Albon to make that same mistake. And I'm sure that's exactly what the Ferrari driver is hoping for. Just keep passing, keep pushing to the limit. Obviously being fair. God, that's quick into that left-hander. Even Albon on the softer tyres couldn't do that, but then struggles for traction, as you can see with those harder compounded tyres. Leclerc with DRS. Are we going to see another one, Alex?
Rack it up. If you're keeping score at home, we'd love to know what it is, because it's time for another change of the lead. Charles Leclerc goes back through, and they were working together earlier on. This is not working together right now. They are fighting every single turn one, and maybe a little bit of drop off for the mediums, but it's not certain who's going to come out on top. Charles Leclerc with the race lead at the moment, though. Super stuff. He didn't give that one up, and he's got past his friend Alexander Albon, and Albon must be thinking, what do I need to do here? Because they called the strategy brilliantly.
Van Dorn now ahead of Gutierrez. Very close, though. 26 thousandths of a second. Now they've just switched.
So, Stuart Broad, nearly 500 test wickets for England in his first virtual Grand Prix. A huge fan of Formula One. We're not going to talk to him. We're not going to put him off after what happened with Ian Poulter. Sorry about that, Ian. Many apologies. Last time out at China, but he will be loving that. I mean, the chance to be on the same racetrack as some of the people that he, as an elite sportsman, would look up to. Fantastic stuff. So back to the battle for the lead. And it goes on and on and on, and it's changing again. Albon to the inside. Albon gets past Charles Leclerc, and it's the Red Bull ahead of the Ferrari, and they have treated us to something fantastic so far. And it doesn't appear to be anything between them. Oh, that was very close indeed. But this is the part of the racetrack that Leclerc just seems to enjoy. He seems to be confident to put the car around the outside. Albon defends for the time being. Good luck to whoever's cutting the highlights of this race. We're going to have to rerun the whole thing.
The team strategist of that Red Bull team, Marcel Kiefer, is going to be pulling his hair out. He's going to be saying, stop battling Charles Leclerc. You've got a 3-second window.
Oh, it's getting mean. It's getting nasty as we go to the final stages. Contact between the leading pair, but it didn't affect Alex Albon, who is sprinting clear. And is that a reflection? Is that perhaps a little bit of desperation from Leclerc trying to put his rival off?
Potentially. He's running out of laps. He needs to break away and get that 3-second gap. God, I'm just gutted. I wish this was for the lead in terms of actual without any penalties. But again, Leclerc in the slipstream. Will he follow? Will he go for the move? He takes the move. Easy peasy. Another change for the lead into turn one. But then Alex Albon, he'd probably get the purchase and take it straight back.
So without that penalty, this would be absolutely extraordinary stuff. It's been fairly extraordinary already, but a reminder that Charles Leclerc has a 3-second penalty. We don't believe Alex Albon has gone over those track limits 3 times, has not received 3 warnings. So Albon right now can sit there and still win the race, but he doesn't want to do that. And will Leclerc try any shenanigans? We saw a few shenanigans last night with Lando Norris. I'm not sure we'll get that again. But Leclerc, Albon, Russell, the top 3. Russell able to stay within 3 seconds, just not able to get that gap down any further. So frustration for him, tumbling down the order early on, and then just not really able to get back up to the leading pack. There he is in the blue and white Williams in the background. So Van Dorn only 5.6 seconds away from him. We're about to go on to lap 33, Matt. And will Albon decide to just take the win? Or will he attack again? Well, you already knew the answer to that question. Back through he goes. Alex Albon moves past and retakes the lead that he has on the timing pages anyway. But now he's got track position. Leclerc will try and come back. And Albon looking good right now. But here comes the Ferrari. Never-ending, relentless attack. And he's going to ease to the inside to retake the lead around Interlagos. Shoves his rival onto the curbs a little bit, but there's no repeat. Oh, there might be a repeat. That is so close to a potential race-ending accident there. But they got away with it. and Albon back in P1 with Leclerc behind, and they're having the time of their lives right now. Magnificent racing, just about enough respect between the two of them.
So am I. My face is hurting from how much I'm smiling from this action. It's awesome stuff. And as this gets more and more heated over these last few laps, George Russell 2.7 seconds behind now. So that means Leclerc will drop to P3. That's why he's so eager to get through. He's like, Alex, please just get on with it. I'm going to lose P2 as well here. And George is setting some fantastic lap times to not only bring himself into P2, but potentially, if there's a little bit of contact, fight for P1.
He can't get clear of Leclerc, and Albon can't get him back. Another move, another change to the lead. Right now, this gaggle of drivers at the head of the field that get on so well are either getting in each other's way. Leclerc knows that it's very unlikely that he's going to get even P2 now. He would drop down to the final rung of the podium, but he is bringing Russell into play. Is that perhaps a tactic? Amazing that Leclerc has got back up ahead. Remember, a 3-second time. I thought for a second that might have been
another curse.
Another one, but it's Correa with the time penalty. Okay, Charles Leclerc is effectively in third position right now, just about. That's going to be tight over the line. George Russell closing in on this leading pair. What an absolutely superb race they've put on for us today. Right now, though, it's Alex Albon when the timing screen updates. Stuart Broad's got a 3-second time penalty, but he is ahead of Jimmy Broadbent, at least for the moment. And he's at least been in the grid. Ben Stokes, a big step forward for him compared to last time. Talking of a big step forward, time again for another change of lead in this epic round of the virtual GP. And Alex Albon back ahead with George Russell just 2.9 seconds away now. So these two were being very friendly before the pit stop. It has been aggressive, it has been close to contact, but right now it's Alex Albon who has the track position, who has the advantage of the Ferrari getting the penalty and dropping down. That's the same penalty that Jelly in the McLaren is going to get as well. So Lando Norris has made the 2 stops in the other McLaren. Lap 35 of 36. Albon looks to have the advantage at this point, but do you want to be in the lead going on the run to the line? Hamilton and Gasly style could go across the line like it did last year. Either way, Albon knows he's got the time advantage, and has he finally broken the resistance of the Monegasque driver?
There's still lots at stake here, lots of pride. They both want to be the one that says, well, yeah, I finished ahead of you on track, even if I got a penalty. You know, Albon doesn't want Leclerc saying that, and vice versa. So right now, I don't know if Charles Leclerc's even thinking about the win here, if he's thinking, right, I'm just going to sit in the toe of Albon to try and get 3 seconds to Russell, because it constantly back and forward. There you go. Doesn't go for the move. But will he go for the move for this next one? I think that's what he's waited for there.
And meanwhile, George Russell goes, oh, just take each other out, will you? He's been watching this from afar, and just see him, certainly when they were going up the hill a few moments ago. Albon has the advantage. Will he maintain the track position as he comes out of turn 4? I think the answer for the moment is yes. Again, a twitch. We've seen a twitch for so many corners for Leclerc, but he's able to run so quickly with that loose rear end of his Ferrari. And Alex Albon now knows that there is no realistic opportunity for Charles Leclerc to get 3 seconds up the road unless they collide. I just realised what corner we're coming to as well. All right, let's scrub that, ignore that, because Alex Albon is going to have a Ferrari in tow, so we're going to see who goes over the line first. Can Leclerc get an exit which brings him over the line first? No, Alexander Albon has had to sweat buckets for this one. At a racetrack where he had a heartbreaking moment after being spun round by Lewis Hamilton in 2019. In 2020, it's victory for Alex Albon, who ends the streak of Charles Leclerc, beats the Ferrari driver, who with the 3-second time penalty applied, goes down to P3. George Russell will finish second, his best result in a virtual Grand Prix. But how many passes for the lead did we see? What phenomenal entertainment between Albon and Leclerc, lap after lap after lap. But the run is over, and Alex Albon is a virtual Grand Prix winner. Matt Gallagher, how good was that?
That was brilliant. Such a good race. The amount of overtakes, answers on a postcard, please, because that was just scintillating. Alex Albon, you have to say, he won that pretty much from his first stint, putting the pressure on Leclerc. That's when he started to make the mistakes, got that 3-second time penalty for what I can only assume is corner cutting or track extending, but what a brilliant race. And George Russell, great result for him as well. He fell back at the start, but had great pace when those two were battling. So, I can't believe that just happened.
That race in commentary, I can tell you, felt about 2.5 minutes long. That was absolutely brilliant stuff. The Leclerc run is over. Alex Albon is your winner around Interlagos. Absolutely superb stuff from him to stay calm, and he dealt with the Ferrari brilliantly. So many battles. Tom, how about that?
Unbelievable scenes. I took my glasses off to let a tear out. That was racing as good as it gets, and it was breathtaking. Where do you start to analyse a race like that? Well, you have to say, Alex Albon and Charles Leclerc, hats off to you, support and cheering how good of a drive it was.
Absolutely epic. I mean, honestly, I've been holding my breath for the last 36 laps. It's astonishing stuff. If only we could see that many overtakes for P1 and P2 in the real thing. I mean, it was just brilliant to see. And you know, it just goes to show how much it means to them both, because you know what, they turned their cameras off, because I wanted to see the shot of them.
That was it.
You know, under pressure, sweating. But they turned their cameras off. They were so focused on this. I'd love to hear from them, because I know that this will have meant a lot. And great to see a Williams back on the podium. Come on. But ultimately, redemption for Alex Albon after that absolute heartbreak at the end of last year.
And it was brilliant. It was a moment where Natalie turned to me, is there any way we can get the screen to show Charles Leclerc and Alex Albon? I was like, I don't know, I'll ask everybody. We did our best.
67, by the way. I'm going for 67 exchanges for the front spot. If anyone has got a stat saying otherwise, please do let us know.
I'll definitely be rewatching it again, because that was epic. And the battle of Stuart Broad and Ben Stokes ends with Ben Stokes getting out on top. But brilliant. Listen, he's a World Rally champion. Listen, let's chat to Peter Solberg, who's with us right now. How did you find that race?
Oh, I'm knackered. I'm knackered. Honestly, you know, when you're coming from a rally background, and okay, I tested a Ferrari before, and I tested LMP1, and things are going well. But this gaming thing is for younger guys, I tell you. I tried everything. I start to understand what they do, but I'm still losing time, and it's incredible.
And what kind of level of mental focus is required?
I seriously, when I get this chance to do it, I've been practicing properly for 2 days now, and I tell you, I want to always do well, but I see here now, compared with the legend race I did yesterday, this is a different thing, you know.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many sim races going on at the moment. Obviously, the F1 is drawing such big names, but I mean, how did you analyse your race? Are you going to come back next time, the Spanish Grand Prix, Peter? Are you going to come back for that?
Honestly, I need to practice more if I'm going to do it. I need to be somewhere on the pace, and I thought I drove pretty good, and yes, of course, I want to do more. Yeah, P12 is not so bad, but you know, a little bit more would have been nice, you know, on the lap times, you know, and maybe I drive too hard, you know, from the rallying, and but at the end of the day, it's great fun, and you know, what other choice do we have now these days in the situation? And I think it's fantastic that everybody supports it.
You've got plenty of time to put the practice in over the next week or two.
Well, yeah, I'm not so good at other things in the house, so maybe I'm fitting better to this.
It's an opportunity to learn some skills, Peter. I have to ask, though, were you aware of just what was going on right up at the front in the 1 and 2 spot between Albon and Leclerc? Did you have any idea how many times they were passing each other?
Well, I got it from my spotter, you know, because I was together with Lundgaard on the radio, and he was, of course, very fast. So I got some information in there, and it was a lot of swearing, and there's a lot of things going on. So, but I did my race, and I had the proper fight with I don't know who it was again. But he was crashing into me, and I was crashing.
Yeah. It might have been.
Ben Stokes just tucked in behind you.
Yeah. But listen,
decent performance.
Listen, it's great to chat to you. Natalie and I thoroughly enjoyed having a chat with you. So listen, go, relax, rest now, and hopefully we see you again and you can put those hours in.
Well, thank you, guys. Really good fun, and take care.
Thanks, Petter.
There you go, Petter, chatting. So just understanding for you guys at home, the effort is being put in from drivers that you expect. Well, this will come easy to them. It's a game. It's more than that. The sim, the understanding the track limits, how far you can push that virtual car.
And it's also about muscle memory, because when you're a racer, there's certain things that become instinctive over time, and you're sort of intuitive with your car. You can feel your way around. This is very different. Again, we said it before. You can't rely on the cues. You can't rely on the G-force. You can't get the feel of the tyres on the track. So it's a very different, it's a big shift sort of mentally to get right into that groove and start racing. And, you know, when the lead is changing backwards and forwards, as it was so many times, this high-speed, high-stakes game of cat and mouse. You know, it was like an ultimate game of tag, wasn't it? Going backwards and forwards between them. And it was actually interesting to see that Kiefer had been managing Albon, because Albon did go long on that first stint, and ultimately that paid off, which is exactly what happened with Kiefer in the race beforehand, the Pro Exhibition game. He absolutely nailed his strategy, and that's what happened this time out too.
Yeah, and just hearing Petter, he sounds like the adrenaline was just flowing through him. So the other F1 drivers who we haven't seen yet, you know, I hope they come along and compete, because then they'll get that sort of racing buzz that they're so used to back again.
And for us fans, I mean, we've all missed racing, but there's a huge amount of adrenaline that goes into that. I mean, I was thrilled to be watching that. I'm sure you were too. You know, it's the closest thing that we're going to get to the real thing, but wasn't it brilliant?
Yeah, it was absolutely fantastic. I'm sure you enjoyed it as well. Listen, I would love to. We couldn't see them, although Natty was asking everybody around who was possibly in this skeleton crew, is there any way we can see their faces? But what we can do is we can talk to them now. We have Alex Albon and Charles Leclerc with us. Well, first of all, congratulations. You gave us a thrilling, entertaining race. How are you feeling, Alex, right now?
I was shaking afterwards. I was like, I had so much adrenaline in my body. I feel more scared driving a simulator than I do the real thing.
No
The pressure
way.
was unbelievable.
Listen, he pushed you back and forth. We mentioned it before, your team, the strategy you had. Is that what gave you that slight edge to get that win against Charles?
Yeah, I think so. I think on pace, Charles was very quick. And then I was quite surprised, to be honest, because I thought most of us were going to go on soft mediums. Charles decided to pit earlier than us. And yeah, I definitely had the better strategy. I tried to get Charles out of DRS, but he was still there. And he kept overtaking me. And I was getting nervous about George as well coming. It was all going on.
I mean, it's great to see a Red Bull and Ferrari fight like that. If only we can see that on the track as well, to that extent. I mean, it was reminiscent, actually, of Max and Charles in Austria, wasn't it? But 30 times over.
Yeah, it was cool. What was probably even more, less contact and even more overtaking than Austria, to be honest.
Yeah, it really was.
Proper fun. Yeah.
Do you have any idea how many overtakes there were in exchange for the lead?
I'll probably say 36 laps, probably 20 overtakes.
No,
20.
way more.
25.
Way more.
Yeah,
way more.
I mean,
more than 30? Are you talking about just us or the whole race?
No, just for you guys. It was like 2 a lap. Or at least it felt like it.
Yeah, probably. I thought you had the exact number, so I was trying to guess it.
No,
it was so, you did too many overtakes. We couldn't count them, there were so many. Charles, I've got to ask you, when you go into that race, that penalty is the final thing that cost you that position. I know Alex crossed the line first, but was that playing into your mind in that last lap?
Well, not really, to be honest. As I've said in my stream, I knew I had the penalty, but then after that, it was also about having fun, and so I kept overtaking Alex. I didn't want him to go, even knowing that George will come back, and it will probably cost me the second place. But I mean, I really enjoyed this race, and it was proper. It was a great time.
And how useful is it in terms of keeping your skills sharp ahead of getting back racing for real, hopefully in July in Austria?
Well, you know, it's not the same thing as reality, for sure, and it will never be exactly the same thing as reality, but for now, in a situation like this is the closest we can get. So, yeah, I mean, we are all having fun. I think this situation also made George, myself, and Alex, we probably lost a little bit of contact in terms of speaking to each other with the years, with the different categories we were doing, and now in a situation like that, it's great to find each other again and to have fun all together, racing and doing what we like. So, it's great.
Well, listen, Alex, Charles, thank you so much for giving us all that entertainment this evening. We look forward to having you back for the Spanish Grand Prix next Sunday. Enjoy your win, Alex, and Charles, maybe have a yogurt. I've seen on your Twitter, you just probably have a yogurt now.
Oh, and well done to your brother as well.
Probably.
Charles, well done
Thank
to
you very
Arturo.
much.
Yeah, fantastic.
Yeah, I'll let him know. Thank you.
There you go. Alex Albon and Charles Leclerc, brilliant to hear from them. And just the laughter there, the enjoyment, and that's something that we sometimes don't get to hear, but they were loving that race.
Do you know, it's interesting because we don't get to see enough of their personalities in the real racing. You know, they're in a helmet submerged in the cockpit of a car. You get to see their personality and their reactions, and there's this massive sort of outpouring of emotion at the end. There was a lot of laughter, wasn't there?
Yeah.
And a real kind of letting off of steam, and I think we all need that right now in these difficult times.
We do indeed. Listen, let's get to him because there was another battle down towards the other end of the grid. Ben Stokes is joining us now. Ben, we tried to chat before. I know Alex Jakes and Matt Gallagher tried to put you off as much as possible, which seemed very unfair, and I do apologise on their behalf. How did you find that race? Because you beat Stuart Broad.
Yeah, no, it was great fun. You know, obviously, I took part in the one in Australia, which went horrendously. But no, today was good because obviously I had a little bit with one of my mates. So yeah, it was good fun.
Yeah, bragging rights are going to you over Stuart. Stuart said he was going to be, as Natty pointed out, he was sweating, he was really nervous about it. You seem pretty calm and relaxed, or is that a different story?
Nah, I was. No matter how much practice me and Stu were training together, actually, as soon as we knew that we were about to do the proper race, it just completely threw all of that out of the window, and we were both very, very nervous.
And how much effort are you going to put in ahead of Barcelona? Will you join us again there?
I'll have to have a look at the track.
We're losing him there.
Well, losing him a little bit there. Well, listen, Ben, we hopefully will catch you at the Spanish Grand Prix. In the meantime, you've got the bragging rights. I expect you to call Stuart right now and give him a call and let him know who's the boss when it comes to F1. So thank you very much for joining us, Ben.
No worries. Cheers, guys.
Well, there you go. Bragging rights.
Impressive performance from him, and you think he was only just behind Petter Solberg, ahead of some really talented drivers.
Indeed.
That was great.
Well, listen, hopefully we get the confirmation of those results, but as we know, Alex Albon crossing the line first. George Russell moving up to second because Charles Leclerc was given that penalty. Stoffel Van Dorn, we haven't mentioned that. He had a pole position.
What a shocker of a start for him. It couldn't have gone any worse, could it? And, you know, he really wanted to convert that pole into a win, and it just didn't happen for him today.
Yeah, indeed. Now, listen, Natty, we are heading next Sunday to the Spanish Grand Prix in Barcelona. This is an exciting race. We don't know who's going to be competing. We assume the likes of Alex Albon and Charles Leclerc will be joining us again, and hopefully Alex Albon will retain that back-to-back wins potentially. But what can we expect from the Spanish Grand Prix? Well,
it's a track that all the current grid know incredibly well because obviously we test there and we race there. They know back to front. If you can perform well at the Circuit de Catalunya, you can perform well anywhere. It's got a bit of everything. I do know that a couple of the England footballers were watching the last two races, and Harry Maguire wants to take part in that one, so fingers crossed. Wow,
Harry Maguire just dropping it down like that. OK, well, listen, Natty Pingman, thank you so much for joining us in the Gfinity winner for the F1 Virtual Grand Prix. It was supposed to be taking them in Zandvoort. It doesn't happen because it's not in the game. So instead, we went to the Brazilian Grand Prix in Interlagos. So thank you very much. We'll be back next Sunday. I just need to say thank you very much to the commentating team. Alex Jakes and doing a superb job. Thank you so much. We will see you hopefully back here next Sunday. Listen, guys, we've done it. The Virtual Grand Prix. We've headed to Bahrain. We've headed to Vietnam, which actually happened in the Albert Park in Australia. And then the Chinese Grand Prix. And now we've headed to Interlagos in Brazil. We'll be back next Sunday. Stay safe and look forward to having you back with us.
4-5 lights are on. It's all to race for. Coming to turn 4. Oh, he's hit him. He's done it. What? Oh, he's taken 2.